Shului Impiloa Conservancy in South Africa was once ruled by a powerful lion pride, but over the years poaching and disease tore it apart until only one young lioness, Kira, remained. Rangers saw Kira as a symbol of hope and resilience. Tracked via GPS collar and monitored by scattered cameras throughout the reserve, she roamed the vast wilderness alone, fierce and independent, surviving against all odds. One morning, signs in the grass revealed the unexpected. Kira was pregnant. It was both thrilling and terrifying news for the conservation team. With no pride for support or protection, she'd be raising the cubs entirely alone in a dangerous environment filled with predators and threats. Senior Ranger Malik was immediately assigned to monitor her closely, watching her every movement through GPS tracking and camera feeds. Over the next few months, Kira grew noticeably slower. Cameras showed her belly was much larger than expected for a typical lion pregnancy. Malik suspected she was carrying more than a usual litter, possibly 4 or 5 cubs. She began digging shallow holes in various locations and constantly changing sleeping spots as if nesting and preparing for birth. Then one evening, her GPS showed she hadn't moved in over 18 hours, which was highly unusual. A drone was deployed and confirmed the worst. Kira was in severe distress, gasping heavily and bleeding profusely. This story touched millions of hearts. If it touched yours, let us know with a like and comment yes, and subscribe or follow for more amazing stories like this. Back to the story. Malik and veterinarian Dr. Lioness rushed through the pouring rain to reach her location as quickly as possible. Under the harsh beam of their vehicle's headlights, they found Kira trembling violently, her belly completely soaked in fresh blood. 3 tiny cubs had already been born and were lying wet in the grass, but something was clearly wrong. The birth wasn't over yet. Dr. Lioness worked quickly and efficiently, administering a uterine stimulant to help Kira's contractions, and immediately prepped for emergency delivery in the field. Kira, though extremely weak and exhausted, didn't resist their help. She seemed to understand they were there to save her. Minutes later, a 4th cub emerged from her body, then a 5th, much smaller than the others. The 6th came barely breathing, limp and unresponsive. Kira suddenly collapsed completely, motionless on the ground. Her breathing became shallow and irregular. While Dr. Lioness desperately massaged the limp cub's tiny chest, trying to stimulate breathing, Malik cleaned Kira's wounds and pumped life-saving fluids into her dehydrated body through an 4-line. The tension was unbearable. Then, after what felt like endless hours but was only minutes, the smallest cub let out a faint exhale and began breathing weakly. They weren't out of danger yet. Kira was still unconscious and unresponsive. 2 of the 6 cubs were far too weak to nurse on their own. Malik and Lioness made the difficult decision to take them to the intensive care center located 30 kilometers away. The remaining 4 stronger cubs were carefully laid beside their mother's warming body, hoping her instinct would kick in when she woke. At dawn, as the first rays of sunlight broke through the trees, Kira finally stirred. Her amber eyes slowly opened and immediately focused on her cubs lying beside her. She began licking them softly with her rough tongue, cleaning their tiny bodies and calling them with gentle protective roars. She was alive and her maternal instincts had fully awakened. The 2 weak cubs, now officially named Tamu and Sira by the conservation team, received round-the-clock intensive care at the center. Veterinary staff fed them every 2 hours with special formula and kept them warm under heat lamps. By the 6th day, they opened their eyes for the first time and were noticeably stronger now, gaining weight and showing signs of normal development. They were carefully wrapped in Kira's old towel to carry her familiar scent and returned to the field for reunion. When Kira first saw them approaching, she sniffed them cautiously, her ears alert. Then she lovingly licked their heads repeatedly. There were no growls, no tension, no rejection. She immediately knew they were hers and accepted them back into her family. That emotional moment brought tears to the entire team's eyes. Kira's incredible story, the miracle of 6 cubs born in the wild against all odds, spread rapidly across the globe through social media and news outlets. Conservation groups from around the world offered financial support and resources. Leading scientists confirmed it as one of the rarest and most remarkable lion births ever recorded in wildlife conservation history. Tamu and Sira, once the weakest and most fragile, grew into the strongest and most playful members of the pride. Each lion was carefully fitted with tracking devices to ensure long-term monitoring, protection, and research data collection for future conservation efforts. One golden afternoon, several months later, Senior Ranger Malik stood at the top of a hill overlooking the vast African savanna, watching Kira and her 6 healthy cubs rest peacefully in the tall grass below. The warm breeze carried the distant echo of a young lion's roar, a sound that hadn't been heard in this reserve for many years. It was a sound of hope, of survival, of a future restored. Dr. Lioness stepped beside him quietly, her eyes also fixed on the beautiful scene below. She whispered softly, "We saved a future." Her voice was filled with emotion and pride. Malik smiled warmly, nodding in agreement. From a single lone lioness who had survived against all odds, a new generation had risen. A miracle had been born in the heart of Africa, proving that with dedication, compassion, and tireless effort, conservation can truly make a difference. Kira's legacy would live on through her 6 cubs, who would one day have cubs of their own, rebuilding the pride that was nearly lost forever. The reserve that once echoed with silence now rang with the sounds of life again. If you believe animals feel love just like humans, hit like. If you think every life matters, leave a comment. And if this story made you feel something deep in your heart, subscribe, because we've got more incredible stories that'll move your soul and remind you why protecting wildlife matters.